On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is Talk TV.
Good evening, I'm Piers Morgan, Uncensored. Tonight, the interviews that the whole world's been talking about. Gypsy King Tyson Fury, the Queen of Rock, Sharon Osbourne, and, of course, President Donald Trump. Now, as you may have heard, I had a rather lively encounter with the most famous and divisive man in the world, present company accepted. It was an explosive interview, covering everything from the future of the royal family to what Donald Trump told Vladimir Putin about invading Ukraine. But first, a question seemingly on everyone's lips when I said I was doing Donald Trump again. Is he going to run for president in 2024?
Well, you know, for reasons of campaign finance and everything, I'm not allowed to say. But let me just say this. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy.
So you won't get involved?
I love our country. Our country is going to hell. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy.
So you're going to run?
I'm not going to say that, but I think people are going to be happy. You might even be happy.
If it's you against Joe Biden, if you win the Republican nomination again, and he runs again, would you beat him?
I believe right now, anybody, I think you could beat him right now. Our country's a mess. Our country has never been so disrespected. Our borders have never been so open. We've never had in 44 years inflation like we have it.
If you run again and you win, which could well happen. I think whoever the Republican candidate, right now, it looks like the Democrats are going to get shellacked in the midterms. It's quite likely whoever is the Republican nominee will end up being president. It could be you again. And for as many people who think that's a great idea, you'll know there are lots of people who think that would be a total nightmare.
Far less.
Far less?
I think so, yeah. I think far less. I think people are very angry at this country. They're very angry at our leadership. They wish they had their vote to do again. We didn't need their vote because, again, we won the election by a tremendous margin. We won the election actually very easily.
One of the other questions about potentially running again is you've been in that pressure cauldron of the White House with your family. They've all come under huge attack. Your children, your wife, Melania. Would you be happy to put them back in there? Would they be happy to be back in there?
Well, I won't get into that, but I will tell you they all love the country, and we did a great job.
And it's been a tumultuous time for the world, for the country. There is a chance that you're going to be running. Quite clearly, you've made that clear in this interview.
I don't think I've made it clear.
You said people are going to be happy.
I think that's it, but I think people are going to be very happy. I don't know. There'll be people unhappy, but I think people are going to be very happy.
So those who don't like you, there's people out there that don't like you. I know you said recently that you were very popular, and I think you said you were the most honest man in the world last week.
I'm a very honest man.
Was that true?
Yeah, I think I'm a very honest man. That's
but
true.
to those who don't like you...
Much more honest than you, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm pretty honest.
Because I don't think you're real.
Really?
But, yeah, I think I'm a much more honest person in most ways, in most respects.
Why am I not real?
But we're not going to get into that. Let's finish up the interview. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
My question was this. What message do you have to people who can't think of anything worse than you running again and will be distressed about it? Would you come back, with all the experience you've had of being president, would you come back a different person? Would you do things a bit differently?
So I like this question in a certain way because I came in and I was attacked from day one unfairly. Russia was a hoax. The impeachment hoax, number one, number two. It was all a big hoax. The Mueller report. And I had to fight back, and I had to fight back strongly. And if I didn't fight back strongly, I wouldn't have survived. And I say it, and I say it loud. I had two jobs to do. Run the country really well, and the second was to survive. No other president went through this fake stuff.
I only ask you, when we did Celebrity Apprentice together, which I really enjoyed, and it was good. Yeah. When I did that with you, I saw a very different Donald Trump in the boardrooms for those hours every night. You weren't as aggressive and confrontational.
Except I wasn't under siege with phony Russia hunts.
And by the way, I agree with you, but the Russia collusion thing was ridiculous.
No, and many others.
Right. But my point is, if you got a chance again, would we see more of that Donald Trump, do you think?
Depends on how you're greeted. But if you're greeted unfairly, you have to be tough and you have to fight. I would like that. I would much prefer that. But it depends on how you greet it. But I would do, and I say this, our country's in trouble. Something has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, and if we don't have smart leadership, you're going to end up with no world. The world is going to be blown to pieces. We have stupid people now running our country. The world is going to be blown to pieces.
Donald Trump has often lavished praise on the Queen, and nothing's changed in his admiration for Her Majesty since he left office. But he does have rather different opinions about Prince Andrew, on the future of the monarchy, and the future of Harry and Meghan.
I met the Queen.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be for 20 minutes.
I saw you just after you saw her.
Right. It was supposed to be just a quick meeting, and it was beautiful, the pomp and ceremony. Nobody does it like the English. I don't know what it is, but nobody does it like
we have a certain,
But
style.
I met her, and it turned out to be more than an hour, substantially, because she liked me and I liked her. And she's let it be known she liked me, and I let it be known I
I've had other members of the royal family tell me they enjoyed your company.
We had a great time, and then they honored the United States, but they honored me that night, which is really the honor of the country. And it was at the top level, and I sat next to her. We talked the whole night. And somebody said, we've never seen her smile so much. We had a great time. She was laughing and smiling. They said they've never seen her have such a good time at a state dinner. You know, normally they're a little boring. Okay, this wasn't boring. So I have a lot of respect for the Queen. She's incredible. She loves her country. I think she's incredible. Look at her. She's been Queen for, 70 years or something, and she's never made a mistake. Even when the guy broke into her room, sits him down, talks to him, quietly does everything she's done. Now, some of the kids, it's, they make a little mistake every once in a while, sometimes a big one.
What did you make of
this
the Prince Andrew scandal?
Well, it was a terrible thing. It was a, terrible thing. I think terrible for a lot of people. But the Queen, I don't know, has she ever even made a mistake? She's an incredible woman. I'm not a fan of Meghan.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. And I wasn't right from the beginning.
What did you make of what she and Harry said?
I think poor Harry is being led around by his nose. And I think he's an embarrassment.
Here's my issue with it. I think that they've quit the country. They've quit royal duty. They're living in luxury in California. Yeah. They want to use their royal titles to exploit them for massive financial gain without any of the duty that comes with the royal titles. I don't think you can have your royal cake and eat it. That's my argument about it.
So I want to know what's going to happen when Harry decides he's had enough of being bossed around, or maybe when she decides that she likes some other guy better. I want to know what's going to happen when it ends, okay?
You think it's going to end?
I do. I've been a very good predictor, as you know. I've predicted almost everything. It'll end, and it'll end bad. And I wonder if Harry's going to go back on his hands and knees back into the beautiful city of London and say, please, I think Harry has been led down a path.
I found it when I heard he wasn't going to Prince Philip's memorial service. Terrible. I found that. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah,
that he would not go to that. He was at the Super Bowl. He was at a Texas rodeo, but he couldn't find time to get on a plane.
I think that was a terrible thing. Many terrible things. That might have been, as you mentioned it, that might have been the worst of all. Because he was, like her, he was a tough cookie too. I remember years ago, Prince Philip came to New York, and we were in the Plaza Hotel, and there were many people wanting to meet him, and we were all taking a picture with him, many people, and the photographers said, I'll never forget this. He was tough. The photographer said, please move back. There were like 30 of us. And he said, no, you move back. And that was simple. I said, that's pretty good. This guy's tough. But I'll never forget that. I don't mean that in a derogatory. I mean it in a good way.
Yeah.
Instead of having this whole group of people moving back, plenty of room, the photographer, and he immediately moved back. I said, wow. I mean, the Queen had to be pretty tough because he was tough.
When he died, I think it was a devastating moment for the Queen.
I think they had a great relationship, but he was a strong guy. I never forget, a little moment, right? He just said, no, you move back. And he didn't say it in a nice way because the photographer was pushing everybody around a little bit foolishly. But I thought it was terrible when he didn't go to the funeral of Prince Philip. Yeah, I think the Harry situation is going to unfold in a much different way.
If you were the Queen, is it at the stage now? Would you remove their royal title?
I would. The only thing I disagree with the Queen on, probably one of the only things ever, is that I think she should have said, If that's your choice, fine. But you no longer have titles, you no longer... And frankly, don't come around. You just... Because her loyalty is to the country. She said that many times. Her loyalty is to the country. And I think that he has been so disrespectful to the country, and it's a great country. I own a lot of things there. I own a place called Turnberry.
You do?
And in Aberdeen I own. And I mean, we have... Aberdeen is beautiful, the oil capital of Europe. And I own things there, and I love that country. It's incredible. It's Scotland. I love Turnberry. I love what I did there. I built things there.
It's a great golf course.
And I respect one of the best in the world. And I will tell you, she is more passionate about her role and the country. It's going to be very interesting. Someday she won't be there.
Right.
It'll be very interesting what happens. And I know Charles pretty well. And I think Charles...
And Camilla, I think you sat with her.
I do. And I'll tell you what, she was on my right, the Queen was on my left, and I said, Queen, I really have to talk to Camilla for a little while, too. You know, we couldn't break apart. And I talked to Camilla, and Camilla was so nice. You know, different than I thought. She was funny, she was smart, quick.
I really like her.
She was great. I like her, too. And I like Charles. I mean, he's serious.
Do you think they'll make a good king and queen when that time comes?
I hope so. I think it's going to be tricky. He's going to have to be...
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's going to be tricky because they are truly replacing... You're talking about a legend. I mean, this woman, she's got to have the all-time record of any country. Is she the greatest...
I mean, in your lifetime, is she the greatest of all the leaders of any kind?
Well, so my mother was born in Scotland. Yeah. And I remember as a little boy... Anything where the Queen was on, anything at all where, and it was the pomp and ceremony, but my mother had tremendous love and respect for the young Queen at that time.
Well, you would have been a kid when she got coronated, right?
I was
in the mid-50s.
But my mother wouldn't leave the screen.
Amazing.
And she'd go back to Scotland almost every year. You know, she loved Scotland, but she loved the Queen. And so does everybody. And for this person to come along and criticize the Queen is just, you just can't do that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. Harry is whipped. Do you know the expression whipped?
I'm familiar with the phrase.
I won't use the full expression. But Harry is whipped like no person I think I've ever seen.
The most whipped man in the world.
I don't know, that's going to be a big one, but he is a whipped man, yeah.
Uncensored next, Sharon Osbourne on her year in the eye of the cancel culture storm. Tonight we introduce Cancelled Corner. I'll regularly invite someone onto my show who's been silenced or become a victim of cancelled culture, and I will formally uncancel them and restore them back to a civilised democratic society. Tonight my guest is Sharon Osbourne. Now, her career suddenly ended because she had the audacity to defend my right to have an opinion over the Markle debacle on her US panel show, The Talk. Here's what happened.
I have felt that Piers was racist in his stance against Meghan Markle, and the last time he was on this show, I said as much.
If Piers doesn't like someone and they happen to be black, does that make him a racist?
No. No.
That's a no.
No.
Right. So why can't it be he just doesn't like her? Why does it have to be racist?
Well, Sharon's here with me now. Sharon, I want to start with this tweet, because it was a tweet that really ignited the firestorm. You just said this as this Markle debacle went down in the UK. You tweeted this. Piers Morgan, I'm with you. I stand by you. People forget that you're paid for your opinion and that you're just speaking your truth. What's incredible about that is you don't actually agree with my opinion. I mean, you might well have done, but you didn't say, I agree with what he's saying. You just said he's entitled to an opinion. And for that, you end up losing your job.
Yeah, because my whole point is that you are a journalist and a celebrity. So therefore, you're paid to give your opinion. The same as I was paid to give my opinion. That's why we're there. And freedom of speech.
When it was all going down on The Talk at CBS, did you imagine in your wildest nightmare that within days you would have been fired from a show you've been on for 10 years?
I was actually in my 11th year, and the situation, I never thought in my wildest dreams that my career after 50 years would have ended that way. I mean, what did I want my legacy to be? I was fired because I was accused of being a racist.
What was so disingenuous was their initial attack from Cheryl Underwood, your co-presenter, who I know, I've been on The Talk many times with you and with Cheryl, always very friendly. But that day, the mood changed, and it looked like she was deliberately coming for you for, in her eyes, endorsing a racist, me. And when you said, well, what's he said that's racist? She couldn't tell you. And eventually she explained that my refusal to believe Meghan Markle basically made me a racist.
Oh, yes, that was the whole setup, that you were a racist because you had an opinion on somebody that was of mixed race.
I've never known you have a racist bone in your body. I would like to think you've never felt that in me.
Never.
We are not racist people.
No.
We never judge people because of their skin colour. I've certainly never written anything about Meghan Markle because of her mixed race background.
Skin colour, religion, you and I could give... you know, that's not the way we run our lives.
When you got fired, you get turfed out by the cancel culture mob. Twitter is ablaze. They're joyful, they're gleeful, they've got rid of you, they've got you out of that job, they've had you fired for having an opinion. What was going through your mind when the first few days after that?
It was, listen, I don't scare easily, you know that, but some of the comments that were coming through on my social media were so horrific about cutting my throat, my husband's, even the dogs. They wanted to kill my dogs. And then they started on Ozzy, on his site, and then my kids. And I just thought, this is just insanity.
See, I had the same thing.
I went back to CBS and I said, not only can I not earn a living, but now I have to have 24-hour security because of you. And they go like, so what?
So your lives were being put under threat by these menacing people on social media, and you don't know who's real and who's not. Also, your career just basically ended. I mean, no one would touch you. You were toxic. You were driven out in a race storm. Therefore, you were untouchable.
It was, I mean, literally untouchable. It was from... You know, everyday stuff comes in, you do this, that, and, you know, charity stuff and everything. The phone never rang. That was it. You are untouchable.
So when people say cancel culture doesn't exist, you lived through it. And you lived through it because of me. And I thought what happened to me was bad enough. What happened to you, to me, was utterly shameful. But cancel culture is real, isn't it? You become this person that no one will want to employ because suddenly you're that person.
Oh, absolutely. You are untouchable. You are an untouchable. And what makes me so mad is I'm in a blessed situation that no matter whatever happens to my career, my husband will always take care of me. But what happens to a person that, you know, say I didn't have a husband and I had kids to bring up, right? Yeah. What happens to people like that are cancelled or fired because they've used the wrong term or something's taken out of context and they're fired? To the average person, what happens to that person?
Have you ever spoken again to Sharon Underwood, who was your co-presenter on?
I sent her 3 texts of apologies and she never got back. And then she went on to national TV and said that I hadn't apologised. So what I did was I actually, on my social media, printed the text. And then she said, well, that's not an apology because it wasn't... I wanted a phone call, and sorry, she never called me.
And let me just hold one moment. What are you apologising for? I thought you had nothing to apologise for. What I'm also interested in is what happened to you later, because your life, I mean, it didn't completely fall apart because you had your family, but it was incredibly tough for you.
It was tough for me, and it did affect me mentally. It honestly did, because after everything that I'd felt, all my dreams I had achieved, everything that I'd wanted to do I had achieved. And did I want my legacy for my family to be, oh, well, your Nana was on television, but everybody said she was racist, so she never went on television again. And that kind of ate me up.
What did that do to you?
It ate me up. I must have cried for 3 months.
Really?
Never stopped crying. And my friend, Sarah Gilbert, who used to, you know Sarah.
Yeah, I know from the talk.
Right. She was the one that came up with the idea for the show and was on it. And she said, you need help. You've got to go somewhere. And she recommended somewhere. And then I was doing therapy and ketamine treatment.
Did you get suicidal at any stage?
Not suicidal, because I didn't want to give CBS the satisfaction.
I'm so glad that we're able to sit here now talking about this, and we're going to come to why you're here and what you're going to be doing next in a moment. You're going to be doing what you do best, talking about news and current affairs and stuff in the papers and so on. I've got to ask you about the Trump interview. He's clearly hinting in my interview that he may run again. He's still popular in America.
Very popular.
And with Joe Biden being such a disaster at the moment, you could see a situation where Trump gets re-elected. Would that be a good thing, do you think, for America?
No, I don't think it would be a good thing. And the thing that frightens me is there is nobody that you could think of that would make a great president. So the competition is non-existent.
We're both monarchists. We love the royal family. How damaging is this drip, drip, drip behaviour of Meghan and Harry running a kind of rival royal family without any of the need for the duty that goes with that, but with all the money that comes their way from fleecing the royal title? It's
just tragic that you can go and try and ruin a monarchy and, you know, what we all grew up with loving, adoring, respecting, and then every time you open your mouth, it's about your family. And the other thing I think that nobody's ever said is their children, their beautiful children, have no family. They don't speak to Meghan's family. They don't speak to the royal family. These children are going to grow up.
Their grandfather...
No grandparents.
Their grandfather, Thomas, lives 70 miles away.
Right. Well,
there's an hour's cab ride.
There's no grandfather, there's no aunts, there's no family. So just think of your children when you're talking about cousins and aunts and
I don't
uncles.
think they think about anything but themselves and the bottom line. I'm about to do something special,
Go
Sharon.
on.
I'm about to formally uncancel you. Because you're back now at Talk TV.
Thanks to
the same network with me. Well, I was delighted to help be part of getting you back here. How important is it to you to be back on television, doing what you do best, on a show called The Talk?
It's very important to me. It's something that I love. And I just, again, you know, didn't want it to end my career in such an ugly way.
And how is Ozzy? My great man. He's just one of my favourite people in the world. Been through the health wars a bit. How's he doing?
He's doing okay. He is. He sends you his love, and he's really looking forward. He's got one more operation left to do, and then he's dying to come back home.
Well, send him my very best, and I'm now going to have the great honour, Sharon Osbourne, of officially uncancelling you to the world and restoring you to your rightful place as the Queen of the Talk. Let it roll.
Oh, we need confetti.
And we need some music to celebrate. What about this?
Oh.
It's Ozzy. It's Changes.
The song is very appropriate.
It couldn't be better, right? It's time for change. Welcome back.
Thank you, my darling.
Lovely to
Thank
see you. Sharon Osbourne. Uncancelled.
I love it. I love it.
Great to see Sharon smiling again. Well, Uncensored next is one of America's most influential cable news hosts. I'll be speaking live to Fox News' Tucker Carlson. That's next.
This is Talk TV.
He's one of the most influential conservative voices in America, a fiery and opinionated TV news host who's never far from the headlines. Fox News firebrand Tucker Carlson gave me his verdict on that emotional Sharon Osbourne interview.
So you're not allowed to express skepticism about the public statements of one of the most powerful people in the world, and Sharon Osbourne is not allowed to affirm your right to express that skepticism, and both of you get fired for it. So that's commentary on the society that allows that to happen. I mean, that's the definition of tyranny, of societal collapse. Like, that's insane. That's the kind of thing that if it happened in North Korea, we'd be like, well, that's, that's the society we need to oppose. And this is happening in two of the freest societies in the world. So, yeah, I don't think we're being hysterical when we say this is the main threat that all of us face.
And what is extraordinary to me is they profess to be liberals, these sort of ultra-woke, cancel culture mob people. But there's nothing liberal about them. I mean, liberalism, to me, means that you believe in democracy, you believe in free speech, you believe in the fair exchange of views, you tolerate other people's opinions. They don't do any of those things. They behave, ironically, they behave like the very fascists they claim to hate most.
Well, of course. And I always think of myself as a liberal. I believe fully and completely in free speech, in freedom of conscience. I am horrified by violence, even state-sponsored violence. I even like organic peanut butter. So to have these people telling me that we should throw anyone who disagrees with them out of work or into prison, have them call themselves liberal, talk about a perversion of the word.
It's preposterous. Now, I'm sure it hasn't escaped your notice. I interviewed President Trump, ex-President Trump, I guess. I want to play you a clip of what he said when I asked him the big question everyone's sort of toying with. Is he going to run again? Listen to what he said. So here's the big question for you, which everybody wants to know. The latest poll says if the 2024 election was held tomorrow, you would beat Joe Biden by 6 points and Kamala Harris by 11 points. In other words, you would be re-elected President of the United States. So are you going to run again?
Well, for reasons of campaign finance and everything, I'm not allowed to say. But let me just say this. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy.
So you aren't going to run?
I love our country. Our country is going to hell. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy.
So you're going to run?
I'm not going to say that, but I think people are going to be happy. You might even be happy.
What did you make of that, Tucker? Do you think he's going to run again? And I suppose I've got to ask you, would you like him to run again? Is it healthy for America, for the Republican Party? How do you see the way things are shaping up here?
What's healthy is for America or any country, Great Britain, to be able to choose its own leaders when the public gets to decide by majority vote. So I'm just for democracy, period. I would say in the case of Trump, I think he does love America. I think he sincerely believes the election was stolen from him. I don't think he's just saying that. He really thinks that, whether you agree with him or not. Whether you think he should be allowed to say that or not, he really does believe that. And I think he would like to be vindicated in that belief, and maybe running again would be one way to do it. I personally, and he hasn't said this to me, I'm not an advisor to Trump, hardly, but I actually don't think he wants to be president again. That's my view. He's got a happy life. He affects, American politics a lot in his endorsements. And I think all things being equal, he'd rather do that. And there are other people who would like to run. And, I personally don't think he's going to run again. I'm basing that on no evidence whatsoever, just a gut feeling. And I'm often wrong. I could be wrong again, but that's my view now.
You talk about other people who may be considering running. You, yesterday, got put in the frame because you apparently going to go and speak in Iowa, or was a sign that potentially someone may be thinking of a career outside cable news. You are uniquely popular now with the conservative base. Let me ask you directly, Tucker Carlson, do you have a plan to run for president?
Our show is popular for the moment. I've had a lot of shows like you have. Sometimes they're popular, sometimes they're not. I've been fired for low ratings, so I've seen both sides of that. But that doesn't mean, I've never been in politics. I've never been elected, room mother. I'm not sure I have political skills. I will give a speech to anybody, anytime. I'm really interested in what the Republican Party becomes, because it is the alternative to what we're seeing now, the neoliberalism of Joe Biden, which I don't think works and I don't think is popular. And so I'm interested in seeing the people who want to replace him. And some of them seem legitimate. Others seem, loathsome, to be totally honest. So, that's the reason I'm going, is I want to see these people and I want to talk to them and I want to talk about them.
Now, who better to throw some light on the thorny issue of trans women in sport than Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner, arguably the most famous trans woman in the world?
We have to change the rules. we have to do a better job, because the bottom line is we have to keep it fair. And I don't want to ruin women's sports or discourage women from getting into sports because they think, oh, my gosh, I'm going to have to compete against a bunch of guys.
I mean, I totally agree.
It's just not fair.
I totally agree, Caitlyn. But what I would also say is I don't want to expose trans people to mockery, which is now going on with this debate, because it looks so ridiculous. You see Leah Thomas just dominating women's sport, and I think that trans people who don't want to be part of any big angry debate about this want to go about their lives in peace and quiet and get on with it. I think they're being affected adversely by this debate, and it seems to me nobody's prepared to put their head over the parapet and go, look, this is clearly unfair and wrong. Here's how we're going to change things. If you were in charge of changing things to make it fair, what is the answer? Should trans women athletes, for example, compete against men? Should trans athletes have their own category now of competition, given there are more and more trans athletes? What's the answer?
Well, Piers, here's the problem we have here. This is a very, very complicated issue. Just like being trans is very complicated. Right. There's no right answer here, Piers. If you just say, no trans athletes, in sports, well, what about female to male? They're trans. That's 49% of the population. 51% are male to female. What happens to the young trans athletes who transitioned? Some of them, when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, they take hormone blockers, and they grow up as little girls their whole life. They have no advantage whatsoever, over the other girls. And what do we do there? So it almost has to be treated on an individual basis. But I think the first thing we have to do is we have to make the qualifying for a trans athlete a little bit more difficult for them to be able to compete. Because I think the number one thing we have to do is protect women's sports.
I mean, what you never see, Caitlyn, what you never see, you mentioned there people who transition from female to male, but you never see any issue there on the sporting side because they never have an unfair advantage. The key point really about, I guess, trans women athletes is they have an unfair, natural, biological advantage. That's the nub of the problem.
If they went through male puberty, you're absolutely right. I went through male puberty, okay? I mean, I don't even play. I mean, I play a lot of golf. Yeah. And at our club, I mean, I play with the women a lot. By the way, Piers, the women are a lot more fun to play with than the men, but the conversation's much better. But they always ask, say, hey, we've got a tournament coming up. Yeah, we've got a tournament coming up. You want to play with us? And, when I'm there, I say, oh, well, that would be fun. But then I never show up. Why? Because it's just, honestly, I would never want to take a trophy away from one of the other. I love the ladies at our club. They're wonderful. I wouldn't want to I can outdrive them by 100 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
And and it's just my arms are longer. I'm 6'1". What I got left over is more than what most people ever had. And so it just wouldn't be fair.
Caitlyn,
so
Caitlyn,
I don't play in that. And to be honest with you, Leah Thomas is, honestly, Leah Thomas is one of the toughest, one of the hardest, one of the worst things that happened to the trans community.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's such bad publicity.
Yeah.
I've met so many wonderful trans people doing wonderful things, living their life authentically. I hope Leah Thomas, it's over for her now because she's out of college. And I just hope she has a wonderful life. Being trans is not easy. And I hope she enjoys the rest of her life and has a good life.
You know what, Caitlyn?
What Leah did is we need to look at the rules.
Coming up, the world heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, undefeated and now uncensored. Tyson, the Gypsy King Fury, the undefeated WBC heavyweight champion, speaking exclusively to me just days after his knockout victory over Dillian Whyte at Wembley. Another world-exclusive interview for Piers Morgan Uncensored.
You've got to keep moving forward in a positive manner and never let anybody tell you can't do something, because there's so many dream crushers out there and naysayers, and they all want you to see you on the floor. But you've got to keep getting back up and disappointing them, Piers. And that's what you keep doing.
When you heard Tyson, Sharon Osbourne, telling her story, could you believe, really, what happened to her? What do you make of this cancel culture, where for having an opinion, or even saying someone's allowed an opinion, you get your life ruined and you get fired?
I think the world has gone mad, Piers. You can't. There's only a freedom of speech until it upsets somebody, and then it doesn't exist anymore. And like you said in the interview, this is what you guys get paid to do: have your opinion. So if your opinion's no good, then what's the point? You know, it's one of them. It's the world's gone crazy, and it's a shame that people like yourself and like Sharon and even me, we can't say stuff. We're going to offend this person, that person. You got to watch your P's and Q's for everything, because even wearing this blue T-shirt, I'm offending somebody. Yeah. There'll be a complaint for sure.
I was about to say, I find it really offensive that you're wearing a blue. That's mainly because I'm an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, exactly. And all my United fans will find it offensive too.
Tyson, let me talk to you quickly about the fight.
You can't please everybody, Piers.
I don't want to please everybody. I don't know about you. I don't want to please everybody. I just want to have my honest opinions, let other people have theirs, have a good argument, and go and have a beer. What happened to that? That used to be how our democracy and society worked.
Well, things change. We're now in 2022, and everything you say gets taken personal, and everyone wants to cancel you out, you know, for everything you say. So you just got to watch what you're saying, Piers. Shut your mouth, and that's not very good when you're...
You know what? I'm not going to watch what I say, Tyson, because I don't think you do either, really. I think that both of us, have the self-confidence to say, you know what, stuff this nonsense. Stuff the fun police, as Shane Warne, my great friend, used to say. Because I think it's just so... what it does, it removes all the fun out of life. It makes life a very joyless kind of experience, doesn't it?
It does. When you can't speak the truth and you think what you think, it's become crazy. I don't know what's going on in the world. Everybody's upset for something. And no matter what you say, can't please everybody. But for me, the only person I'm interested in pleasing is my wife, and I'm struggling with that most of the time.
Now, there was an interesting moment, Tyson, at the end of your fight when you claimed you're going to retire. Everybody was groaning. Nobody wanted to hear that. And your wife looked to me like she was saying, no, he's not. Something like that. She certainly gave an indication that she doesn't think you're ready to retire yet. Why would you retire? You walked out in front of nearly 100,000 people at Wembley going crazy. You're at the peak of your powers. You knock out this guy with a ruthless uppercut. There are still one or two massive fights left for you. The winner of the Joshua Usyk fight, obviously, would be a huge one. I don't think you're ready to retire, Tyson Fury. Give me the scoop. Are you going to now tell me right now, Piers Morgan, uncensored, that actually you've got more in you?
Well, let me tell you something. Piers Morgan, uncensored. This is the truth, the gospel truth, nothing but the truth. I'm done. You know, every good dog has its day. And like the great Roman leader said, there'll always be somebody else to fight. When is enough enough? I'm happy, I'm healthy, I've still got my brains, I can still talk, I've got a beautiful wife, I've got 6 kids, I've got up-team belts, I've got plenty of money, success, fame, glory. What more am I doing it for? You know, boxing's a very dangerous sport. You can be taken out with one punch, as we've seen on Saturday night. And, you know, it only takes one unlucky blow, and you may not get up off that canvas. I'm quitting while I'm ahead. I'm undefeated, only the second man in history to retire undefeated heavyweight champion. I'm very, very happy. I'm very contented in the heart with what I've done, what I've achieved. It's not about money for me, Piers. You know, a lot of people in this world, everything's about money and more money and more money. I've got enough money. I've got enough of everything I need. I'm a very simple man. I drive an 07 VW Passat. I'm a very normal person. I don't need tons of money to impress everybody.
Do you know what I think about you, Tyson? I actually think you think you're a simple, normal person. I actually think you're one of the most fascinating people, honestly, that I've ever interviewed. I think the way your mind works, I think you're quite a complex thinker. You're a deep thinker. You're highly intelligent. And yet you do this, you know, incredibly violent sport. But that's why, in a way, I do believe you, because I do think you've probably calculated. You look at the greats, Muhammad Ali, who go on too long, who do one big fight too many, who get battered and then never recover. I can understand it. Yeah. I can understand why you may have, with your smart mind, calculated it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. You know, I've got family to raise. I've got kids. I've got 4 young kids to raise and 2 bit older ones. I've been away for the last 10 years on the road, all over the world, travelling for boxing. You know, when do I get time to be a father, a husband, a brother, a son? I need this personal time. You know, the fans will always want more. They're always baying for more blood. But at the end of the day, I don't have anything more to give. I've given everything I've got. I've been a professional 14 years, and I've been boxing over 20 years. I'm all out. Every good dog has its day in the sun, and my time is to go out on a high. And I always said that I wanted to walk away on top of the sport and do it on my terms. And I didn't want to be the person who said, well, I should have maybe retired 2 years ago or whatever. I just wanted to walk out on top, go out with a bang, nearly 100,000 at Wembley with a knockout performance. They will not forget the Gypsy King in a hurry. And for sure, and no amount of material assets or money will make me come back out of retirement, because I'm very happy.
I completely, you know what, Tyson, I completely respect you, and I get your argument for it. I wanted to ask you a question. When I did Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump, and I might ask you a question about Donald Trump in a moment, because I know you know him. But when I did it with Donald Trump, Lennox Lewis was in there with me. And Lennox told me when he was the world heavyweight champion, everywhere he used to go, in America in particular, he'd go to a bar or a club, and the biggest guy in the bar and the club would want to come and take him on to prove their point. Do you get that? And he said he used to take them on very quickly. And I said, what happened to them? He went, I was the heavyweight champion of the world. What do you think happened to them? Do you get that when you go into pubs and things? Do people say, oh, come on then, Tyson, me and you?
You know what, Piers? Never. I've not got that persona or aura about me where I don't think I'm a tough guy. I don't walk around like the big man. I don't think I've ever been approached in a bar or a pub. Coming from a former alcoholic, don't forget, who used to go to a lot of bars and pubs and restaurants. I've never been in a fight outside the ring in my whole life. I've not got that persona of like, oh, come and take me on. I'm more like a happy-go-lucky type of guy.
When you saw the other Tyson
in a bar than have a fight.
When you saw the other Tyson from your sport, Mike Tyson, having that incident on a plane where some guy was drunk and goading him, and eventually Tyson gave him a bit of a slap. What did you make of that?
Well, you know, Mike Tyson's a real OG, and you can't mess with Mike because you just don't know what he's going to do. But all the people, all the fun police, like you just said before, they'll all be on Mike to get him cancelled as well. But how can you go around prodding a lion with a stick? How long can you prod a guy for before he does something about it? You know, Mike's Mike. Mike don't get the name for the baddest man on the planet for nothing. So he's not the guy you want to prod with a stick on the back of a plane until you get chinned. And that's exactly what happened to the guy. And then he wants to cry about it. If he's man enough to prod Mike Tyson and touch him and call him names and abuse him on a plane, then man up and take a punch in the face. So what? You should be paying Mike. Now you can say you've been punched in the face by a legend and a world heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson.
Tyson, if you're not going to be boxing...
I'd pay for that myself.
If you're not going to be boxing anymore, Tyson, what's your big ambition? What's your big aim in life now?
My big aim in life now, Piers, is to get a job next to you, interviewing people and talking my mind. Get up!
Very quickly, I'm told you had a chat with Donald Trump recently where he said to you he is going to run again for president. Is that true?
Well, I think he'll be running again for president 100%. Why not? Why not?
But he told you that
last time.
He told you that?
I think he'll get it this. I think he'll get it this time for sure. 2024, I think Donald Trump will be president of the United States again.
Tyson, when you say you think he will, I'm told you know he will because he said that to you. Is that true?
I'm not going to go on and say what he did and didn't say in a private conversation, but let me just say, I think he becomes president again in the next election.
That's all for us this week. Whatever you're up to this weekend, remember, make sure it's uncensored.
I'm Tom Newton-Dunn, and this is Talk TV. The most memorable moment in my career, without sounding completely conceited, it has to be interviewing President Trump in the Oval Office in the White House. Particularly the little red button he had on his desk. I had no idea what he did as the interview went on. I wondered more and more, was he going to launch a nuclear strike on North Korea or open up a shark pit that I'd then fall into? Turned out he pressed it right at the end of the interview, and in walked a butler with a tray carrying a Diet Coke. It was the Diet Coke button.
Talk TV News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Zora Suleiman. Three-time Wimbledon champion Boris Becker has been jailed for 2.5 years for breaking the terms of his bankruptcy. Earlier this month, he was found guilty of hiding millions of pounds worth of assets, including 2 Wimbledon trophies. Neil Parish, the Tory MP who allegedly watched porn in the House of Commons, says he opened a file by mistake. The MP for Tiverton and Honiton in Devon faces a parliamentary investigation and said he would step down if guilty. A British fighter captured in Ukraine has been paraded on Russian state TV. Andrew Hill is now the 3rd Briton to have been shown on screen and said he had been shot and can be seen in pictures with his arm in a sling and bandages on his head. That's all for now. We'll have more after the talk.